Good morning, I'm Bob Fletcher. We're here today to conduct an interview with the United States Marine Corps veteran, Darryl Whiting. I'd like to get a few administrative things out of the way first. So we're doing this project in coordination with the Library of Congress Veterans History Project. Also locally, it is through the Daughters of American Revolution, and it's their history program that they're associated with this project. That's why it's here in Gainesville. With us today, we have Miss Helen Martin, who's our area coordinator, retired teacher, author, resides here in Gainesville. I would call her a historian myself. Mike Smith is our videographer. He doesn't want me to call him professional, but he's quite professional. You'll see this when you get your interview recording at the end of this interview. It'll be great for your family. Let me just look at a few things here. We want to make sure we cover the location that we're in today. It's just so that's for a historical record. We are in the Northeast Georgia History Center on the Brunel campus in downtown Gainesville, Georgia. And virtually everybody in the room here today is from Georgia. And really an important note for today is it is June the 1st, 2024. Okay, Darryl, we're going to start with the early days of where you were born, a little bit about your family, your siblings, maybe your local area, and do not include anything until you get to just the day before you get in the military. So maybe high school, anything you can remember from your early days, starting from when and where you were born.
Well, I was born in Oconto, Wisconsin. And in the house, the doctor back then came to the house. And my dad became a cheesemaker, and I worked in this place called Little Swamico, Wisconsin. And it was just a small little town. We had a cheese factory there, and I worked. I was the oldest of three boys, and my dad got a stool about that high, and then I could stand on it and do some work around the cheese factory. So from when I was just a little guy, I worked there. And then I wrote quite a long article, as I showed you, that covers just about everything from when I was born until today, really.
How about your siblings? How many do you have?
I had two brothers.
Two brothers.
Younger, yeah. One is, he was deceased a long time ago, and the other one is still alive. We FaceTime, which is kind of neat. He lives in Wisconsin. And let's see,
what town does he live in Wisconsin?
What, pardon me?
Where does he live in Wisconsin?
He lives in Green Bay.
And he's still alive?
He's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
He, unfortunately, circulation problem, and he lost both of his legs and his colon and what have you. But it's wonderful to be able to FaceTime back and forth. But anyway, I'll fast forward because I could be here all day.
I was going to say, let's go forward to maybe where you started your high school. What about your high school?
Well, I went to high school in a little town called De Pere, Wisconsin, and a year and a half later went to Green Bay.
How many were in your senior class?
We graduated with 250 people from East High in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And there again, there's not a whole lot left. Few people, in other words, when they used to have every 5 years they had a group that got together, but they cut that out. Now they just have lunch, few of them. But anyway,
you got to be a Packers fan then, right?
Definitely a Green Bay Packer fan. Still am. Nothing about the Falcons, but I still am a Packer guy.
Let me move you forward to an important day. Tell me what you were doing exactly, if you remember. It's a long time ago. 1 week prior to your either draft, were you drafted or recruited?
Volunteer.
Volunteer. So let's go up to not the day of, but 1 week prior. What were you doing?
Wow. I guess I was getting ready to go.
Were you in a job at that time?
I was working for a grocery store,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess I quit there and just got ready. Another fellow and I went together, and actually I was in the Naval Reserve,
Mm-hmm.
which it'll talk about. In high school, when I turned 18, I joined the Naval Reserve, and I had been a Sea Scout.
So you were really military minded even in the high school.
Right, and I wanted to go to the Navy full time with a friend of mine, but back then there was a waiting time,
Oh, I see.
and it could be in the time you're talking about, pretty much, because we went to the Naval Reserve and they said be a month and you could go. And when we walked out, there was a Marine standing there in his dress blues, and man, he looked sharp. And he said, "Boys, are you going to the Navy?" And we said, "Well, we'd like to, but we can't get in quick enough." And he said, "How would you like to go tomorrow?" And he was serious.
It's a pretty smart recruiter.
And he said, "The Navy, we're part of the Navy." And he gave us all kinds of information about how nice it is in California, and you're going to have horseback riding and beautiful girls on the beach and all of that. Turns out, I think he was full of baloney because it didn't turn out like that.
How about that? So let's move you right on into the military. You went down in downtown Green Bay, and you raised your right hand, and you joined, and your friend joined the United States Marine Corps.
Well, how it happened is we took a train to Milwaukee,
Oh, to Milwaukee.
stayed overnight there, then got sworn in,
Mm-hmm.
took another train to Chicago, and then a train from Chicago to Los Angeles. That was about 36 hours. And then a bus picked us up from San Diego and brought us down to San Diego from Los Angeles.
Where was your basic training at?
It was in San Diego.
In San Diego. Okay. Not down there in Lejeune area.
No, the other side.
Other side. The other
Yeah.
two sides. Somebody mentioned that
Yeah.
to me one time.
Yeah.
So, did you like San Diego?
I loved the weather, and the city was wonderful once I got out of it. But the boot camp was tough.
Tell me one thing you can remember that you really sticks in your mind about that boot camp in the United States Marine Corps.
Actually, the first day, when we got on that bus in Los Angeles and we got over to San Diego, the guy driving the bus says, "Fellas, take a look around because you aren't going to see nothing other than the base for the next 3 months." And we got out and they were spraying us with all kinds of water, and we went and had our caps and our sweatshirts. And then after that we went over to got our hair all cut off. I mean, really, every bit of the hair cut off. And then the hat went down like that. And they had a name for us. I don't know if I can mention it.
Oh, go ahead. That's great.
Well, they called us shitbirds.
That's fine.
And I didn't know what that was until I had my hand like that, and then I knew what it was.
So you were one of them for about, how long were you in basic?
3 months.
What year was that?
1953 in August.
1950, Korean War.
Uh-huh.
Well, we're going to get into, we should stick a little bit more with that basic training, because in the changes in every war, and Korean War, what in that recruitment area or in that basic training area, how'd they treat you generally, if you put an overall thing on it?
Well, there was a lot of discipline, and you just, had very little time for yourself. And we got issued an M1,
Mm-hmm.
and it had cosmoline all over it, so we had to clean it and wipe it, and we had to learn how to take it apart with our blindfold on. And so we just had, every day it was long days. We'd get up at 4:30 in the morning and wouldn't go to bed until about 10 at night.
Food good?
Food was pretty good, yeah. We only had a certain length of time to eat.
They get you in the water at all?
Yeah, in fact, we had to jump off a 40-foot tower.
Did you swim before that?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
you're
knew-
from Wisconsin,
I
so
knew how to swim. Yeah.
you knew.
And the Filipinos, they were there, and they'd just do circles and everything else. But 40 feet's pretty high when you look down.
And what was that year again that you were in basic?
1953.
53, near the end of the Korean War.
Right.
Well,
Well, yeah, the firing stopped in 53 in July.
Right. Let me ask you this: you have what was the first assignment you had right out of that Marine Corps recruitment area? Your very first assignment, where you went from San Diego to where?
Oh, okay, yeah. I went to Camp Pendleton for advanced combat training after the boot camp,
Uh-huh.
and that was a month. And so altogether we had 4 months training. And then from most every one of us was ready to go to Korea. Lots of fellows were coming back, and we were going to replace them. And I was standing in a platoon. We had all our shots, just dozens of shots, I think we had.
Oh, sure.
And a lot of them you couldn't even lift your arm. But anyway, they asked if there was anybody knew how to type. And a couple of us raised our hand. I had taken typing in high school, and so instead of going to Korea, we went to Camp Pendleton, and I was at the 2nd Infantry Training Center there, and dispersing. And that was like your friend you mentioned, he was in payroll, and we did the same thing. We'd go to the bank and come back, and so not too long after that, there was a new unit, Marine Corps Test Unit number 1, that needed people, and they were atomic, biological, chemical warfare is what they were doing, and I volunteered for that. They used to say don't ever volunteer for anything, but
You
I
did anyway.
I did it a couple times.
You heard the word atomic, and you said, "I'm going to go there."
Well, it was ABC, atomic, biological, chemical warfare. Supposed to be a crack unit that traveled all over the place, and I wanted to travel. I didn't want to get stuck out in.
Where did they assign you to first after Camp Pendleton? Then, the very first spot you were in after Pendleton,
Well, I was at Pendleton all the while.
the whole time.
That's 125,000 acres. It's a huge
Wow.
base.
Right.
And they have 17 miles of Pacific Ocean that goes along with it. And they have all kinds of different bases within the base. And so I was on Camp Pendleton.
And that's a long way from Wisconsin there, Darryl.
It was quite a ways.
And it was warmer.
The weather was not bad.
Let me ask you this. I noticed when I was looking at your profile, you have very unusual, and were awarded a very unusual medal. It's because you were a witness to the atomic bomb.
Right. Can
Can you tell us a little bit about how that all happened? And I noticed you have that medal in your hand there. If you could show that up to the videographer. Darryl was awarded a medal. I'm going to read this for a second because I have never heard of this, and I've been in the military. It's Defense Threat Reduction Agency, which is at Fort Belvoir, Wisconsin. And quite frankly, I thought I knew everything about the military until I saw that today. I've never heard of this. Well, obviously, and it's a very secret organization anyway. So maybe Mike, Darryl, you can tell us, how did you get that medal?
Well, I saw the bomb. We flew to Desert Rock, Nevada as the group, and we went out from there 60 miles out into the desert, and it was quite an article about Las Vegas too. That became kind of a atomic bomb destination for people, and they could actually see the bright lights in the sky. But we went there not knowing too much about it. And our whole, the Marine Corps Test Unit number 1, they were there. all of us. There was dignitaries from really all over the world, a lot of different people. And they took us out at 4 in the morning, and then there was trenches. Do you want me to tell you about how it all?
No, this is very important, Darryl, because I don't know of any interview that this kind of thing has happened before to any interviewer. And so you probably should give us every bit of detail you can remember about when you were taken out there and what you saw and like that.
Oh, okay. All right, well, anyway, we were out there, and there was jeeps and buildings and tanks and all that all around. And then there was trenches. And when the time came, they told us that when you get in the trench, you get in on your haunches. In case it would cave in, you could push yourself up. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have any eye protection or ear protection. My friend who helped me write that article, he remembered stuff and I remembered stuff. And it's kind of interesting because we heard that the officers, some of them had taken a stencil on a piece of wood, and when that heat and flash went off, it would burn their names for their desk.
Oh, that's amazing.
Never knew that was true or not, but we heard that. And so the time came, and we got into the trenches. We were to look down, not up at all, and stay down. And they started counting it down, 10, 9, all the way down. All of a sudden, there was a tremendous bright light. In fact, there wasn't any shadows at all. Everything was just total white.
Well, I'm not sure if you can tell us this, but 1953, would that have been a hydrogen bomb or an atomic?
It was actually in 55.
55.
Yeah, it was an atomic bomb.
Atomic bomb.
Yeah, and in that article it tells the size and all of that. It was not a real large atomic bomb, but in fact we were in the trenches about 3,500 yards from a tower where the bomb was sitting on that tower. And once the bright light, and then there was a tremendous noise, and you could see out of the side of your eye there was boulders and dust and everything just blowing over. And
what would have been your job there then, at that point? Why did they have you there, and what were you there for?
we were still in the payroll department, and we were able to.
Oh, I see.
The whole.
So they were all there to,
all
regardless.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you get involved? Did you get any radiation experience yourself? Do you think?
Well, when we were able to get up, we walked all the way up to where the bomb had gone off, and everything was just nothing left. It was kind of roped off, and they checked us with Geiger counters and what have you. And we did take on some, but apparently it didn't bother anybody, and they took brooms and swept us off. Mm-hmm. And as far as the radiation, there was a lot of people that witnessed more than one bomb, and some out in the ocean and Navy and what have you. But they had cancer. A lot of people got cancer. Mm-hmm. And there was a group of people, the atomic veterans, trying to get the VA to acknowledge the fact that, hey, they were witness to the atomic bomb and they got cancer, so you need to take care of them. It took a long time before the VA recognized the fact that they always seemed to take a little while.
What year did they finally recognize that? Do you remember?
I don't know the exact year, but I'm thinking it would be at least 20 years after.
So did you stay there at that location for your entire
No.
Korean War? Where did you go from there?
Went back to Marine Corps Test Unit number 1, which was on Camp Pendleton.
Mm-hmm. And so
I stayed
the
there.
Korean War ended around 53 near the end, and you did not get to go over.
No.
But you sure got involved with it. And then at Camp Pendleton, what they have you doing there?
I was in the payroll dispersing.
Payroll.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you exactly paid one guy when he showed up?
Well, I got $78 a month plus $7 clothing allowance when I got in as a private. And when I was a sergeant, I got $148 a month plus $7 clothing allowance. And that was the highest I ever made, $148 a month.
Let me ask you this. This is going to surprise you a little bit. When you stood there in Milwaukee and you raised your right hand and swore to the Constitution of the United States to get in the United States Marine Corps, did you ever realize you could possibly ever be involved with an atomic bomb?
No, I just didn't think ahead like that. I was looking at that guy that told me about the horses and the beautiful girls on the beach and all of that.
Well, when you were down there at Pendleton in the San Diego, how many of those guys went out to the bomb area?
At Camp Pendleton,
Like when you were there as a typist, how
Yeah.
many did they take of your unit to go out there to the, well, you were in the administrative area, but how many did they take out of that class you were in down there at Pendleton?
the exact number I couldn't tell you, but the whole unit transfer was out
The
there.
whole unit went
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So none of them went over to Korea. They all went there.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And they
And you had no idea during basic they were going to do that, right?
not really, no. The actual Marine Corps Test Unit number 1 was a special
Yeah.
unit. It disbanded in like 57 or something like that, so it was only a few number of years that they atomic, biological, chemical warfare. And we, even though we were in the office, we still trained a couple days a week.
Right.
And they had helicopters moving the troops, and I think probably it was a forerunner of what they did in Vietnam.
What type of chemical warfare suit did they issue you?
I didn't have any suit.
So actually, really no eye protection?
Oh, you're talking about for the bomb itself?
In that area, did they?
No, we just had a regular.
So there was no chemical warfare suit?
No, not this was just strictly
Yeah.
the bomb.
Well, in that unit itself, did they issue any uniforms that had to do with chemical or biological?
No.
Did they issue that chemical or biological uniform to anybody that would not be in the administrative area?
Not really. No. Not that I know of.
So this is very
Never saw anybody.
Because today, of course, they completely cover everybody
Right.
with
Right.
everything.
Right.
Do you remember anything from what day did you actually get out of the service?
12th of August, 1956.
So your total time was in the Marine Corps?
Actual 3 years of active duty, and then there was reserve after that. So.
Oh, so you could have been called up at any time then.
Right. Yeah.
For how many years after
I
you?
think it was
Probably around 8 or 9 years.
6 years. I think.
You're on recall
Yeah.
in case.
Yeah. Yeah.
And could have happened in Vietnam. Could have called you.
Could have. Paul Scruggs was our president of the Korean War veterans, and I told him, I said, I never went to Korea, and he said, you signed a blank check. And I never forgot that, because he said they could have done anything they wanted with you.
Absolutely. Well, when you raise your right hand, they own you.
They owned you. Yeah.
When did you get married?
We got married June 22nd of 1957.
And how did you meet your wife?
Well, that's going back to high school, and I met her there, and we went to the prom, and then wasn't anything real snappy until I came home on leave from boot camp and advanced combat. They gave us a little leave, and something snapped, and we were married 65 and a half years. So something worked.
Had to work pretty well. Huh?
It worked pretty well.
Did your wife ever say, Darryl, you were involved with radiation?
You know, my son has diabetes very bad, and I had twin daughters that had the BRCA2 gene, which was cancer.
Yes.
And my wife died of lung cancer. We don't think it's related to the bomb at all, but my son mentioned, he said, I wonder, Dad, if there was something that zipped something in there. You just don't know. But
So Darryl, how did you end up in Georgia?
well, I loved California, and I'm very proud to be a Marine.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I was in the Navy, I still, anybody goes through the training and whatever.
Once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine.
Always a Marine. But anyway, when I got off the train coming home from the 3-year stint, my mother and my girlfriend met me there, and my girlfriend had a beautiful dress, a blue dress right up to here, and I always used to tell her that's what got me to stay in Wisconsin. But I wanted to go back to California after I got it. I loved the weather. And Wisconsin has probably some of the worst winters that you could imagine. You told me you were there.
Yeah, I was there for 6 years, and you're right, it's very cold.
Yep. And I wanted to go back to California, and I did in 1978, and they ruined it. And now it's really ruined. A friend of mine said, why don't you go to Georgia? So I came down to Georgia, and I fell in love with Georgia. I thought just a beautiful state. The weather was perfect. We were able to live on the Lake Lanier for a while. And, all my family, we had 4 children, and they got out of high school, and we all moved here at once. And they're all here, and they all multiply.
So you really, even though your roots are in Wisconsin, your extended roots are right here in Georgia for
They
a
really
long,
are.
long time.
They really are. Yeah.
And what type of jobs did you have after the military?
Well, the first job I got was in the trucking industry, in the management and common carrier. And then that was 15 years, and then after that I got into real estate. And that's what I did when I came down here. And it took me 10 years to get it going. It was pretty, I didn't have any referrals or anything.
Right.
No GPS. Had to look at a map to get around it. But we made it, and we're, as far as I'm concerned, we're natives. We weren't born here, but I've got a lot of them that had. We have 9 grandchildren and 22 great-grandchildren, and they're all here.
That is amazing. Well, that's kind of lucky too. They stayed right here in Georgia, so you have a lot of contact with your family.
Yeah.
And is there any doubt that you're proud to be in the United States Marine Corps?
Any doubt?
Yeah, any doubt in your mind?
None whatever.
I didn't think so.
None whatever.
Well, Darryl, I've covered, I think, just about everything. But did I miss anything that you might want to cover that I forgot?
Maybe Hollywood.
Oh, we did. He did mention that to me earlier, and I've got to know this for sure. How did you get the nickname Hollywood?
Well, I never really traveled a whole lot, except to California. And I spent all my time in California, and there's such a name, they call them Hollywood Marines. And I'm one of them.
Well, yeah, that's right. Everything you learned out there in Camp Pendleton makes you a Hollywood Marine.
That's right.
So even though you were in the Korean organization here locally, I bet every time you showed up, they called you Hollywood, right?
They did.
That's what I thought.
And I was the second vice president, and then later on I was the chaplain for the group. They took me in, and we just had a wonderful, wonderful time. Probably about 14, 15 years. And we had about 28 very active members. We were in the parades, and in fact I drove a Jeep many times in the parade, and somebody would holler, Hollywood!
Do you know of anybody at all that has the same medal you're holding right there in your hand?
There should be, yeah.
But I mean locally here?
No,
Nobody
I
locally?
don't know anybody locally that.
But probably out there, well, when that medal was awarded there at Fort Belvoir, they had to give a certain number of medals out based on the fact that you were in contact with atomic radiation.
Right.
So, but they had to be called up to get the medal almost, didn't they?
These are very recent.
Well, I was going to ask you what year you got that.
Probably within the last 2-3 years.
Yeah, see, that's important. You didn't get that right away.
No, not at all.
In fact, they probably wanted to keep it all secret until about that time.
Could be.
Yeah, there's really no way of knowing.
Right.
Is there anything else I might have forgotten? Because that's important to get that out there. Did I forget anything else?
If you did, I forgot it too.
Well, let me ask Mike, because Mike knows a lot of stuff about Marines and veterans. Mike, can you think of anything we ought to be covering?
I don't know that I can think anything specifically about your time in. I do have a couple of questions, though, if you don't mind.
No. Mike has obviously a family military history, and I would like Mike to ask you a few questions, because he can bring stuff that I might have forgotten.
Okay.
Well, I'm curious about later as well. First of all, you said you and your wife were married for 65 and a half years?
Right.
And 4 children, I think you said.
Right.
Okay. Tell us about her for a second, if you don't mind.
My wife?
Yes, sir.
But she was a beautiful girl, and we worked together. She was my secretary in the real estate.
Great.
So pretty much after I got out of the trucking industry, which there was a lot of travel and entertainment and what have you, she and I pretty much were together all the time. And unfortunately, she got lung cancer, and she passed away a year ago, January. And but you know, I think of her all the time, and I don't know what I could say other than I wish we could. Well, I believe I'm going to see her again.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, what a blessing to have 65 and a half years and still thinking about that blue dress, huh?
Yeah, I am.
I have an idea. I think maybe what got things running was you coming home in that Marine uniform, right?
I believe
Maybe
there
that's
was
what got
something
things
to
going.
that.
Wonderful. And then tell me again about your family. So you had 4 children, and then how many grand?
We have 4 children. We had a son, a daughter, which we still have, and then a set of twin daughters. And they had the Brock 2 gene, and one passed away at 55 and the other at 61. And then the 9 grandchildren had 22 great-grandchildren.
Wow.
So, and there's one more on the way, which, so we really became damn Yankees.
That's
in
quite a
Georgia.
family. Congratulations. That's quite a family and quite a legacy.
Thank you.
One thing we also like to ask about, you know, there'll be other people that have an opportunity to watch this video and hear your story and study what you did and the experiences you had. I'll actually take a picture of that medal and make sure it's part of this as well. But I'm interested in advice. What advice would you have for young people that might watch this video about life?
Wow. Well, I'm 89 and didn't think I'd ever make it. I had open heart surgery 15 years ago. But I think the best thing that I could say is if as far as marriage, I think my wife was not only my wife, but she was my best friend. And we tried to help each other raise up to the best that we could be. And a lot of times it's easier to start getting in an argument and saying that you're just like your hag mother, or you're just like somebody else, and you forgot what you're arguing about. And I got that advice from a counselor one time. He said, never get off the subject and never go to bed mad, which is pretty common, you know. But I think just love and respect and honesty and committal. I personally would like to see all young people today serve about 2 years in the military. I think it would be a wonderful thing. And it'd be good for them. They could have college paid for, they could have a lot of benefits, and a lot of discipline. And, I mean, I went in 18 years old, and after 3 years, I was a man.
So you point back, good experience, and
I
brought
really
a lot of
did.
value to you.
I really did. I really did. Like he said, once a Marine, always a Marine. Not only that, Air Force too. I mean, Navy.
Mike, do you have anything else there, Dan?
No, sir.
You know, Darryl, what I'd like to do then to conclude the interview
Yes, sir.
is, as an officer myself, Air Force, I would like to thank you on behalf of all of the Americans, on behalf of all the presidents, alive and dead, for your service in the United States Marine Corps.
Well, that's a great honor. I never expected to have any honor at all.
Well, that's what they all say, but thank you for your service, because when you're a United States Marine, there's nothing like it, and you're the best.
Well, thank you, sir, for your service.
Thank you. Well, that'll be the end of the interview. I think it'll be an important historical record as far as the world of atomic weapons, how they're protected, what happens, and what happens to the individual they get involved with that kind of thing. Darryl, you're one of them, and thank you very much for the interview.
Perfect. Appreciate you doing that. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
On the spot, both of you. Thank you so much, and thank you.
Of course.
Who
That
would
was wonderful.
ever
Oh,
have
that's
thought
wonderful.
that Hollywood would have an interview?
Boy, am I glad you see, that's why I always say when I forget something, boy, I had to get that in there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
That-
glad
that-
Hollywood's
that-
here in Georgia with us. I'm glad you made home here.
Love it to death. I really do.
It's definitely a good place. A lot of good people in the area
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Do you miss Wisconsin? I have a corporate office that's in Winona,
mean
Minnesota,
Winona,
just
yeah.
across the river
Oh, okay.
from
Yeah.
Wisconsin. So I've spent a lot of time there.
He
Do you
probably
miss it
does,
at all?
too.
I was there. Oh, thank you. I
I
was
think
there
that-
last
I
year.
think that-
Saw my brother and everything, and it was nice. It's
You
a
wanna
nice.
see that?
It's smaller. The traffic isn't anything like this.
Absolutely.
But no, you wouldn't be able to get me to go back there.
Well, and you've got such deep roots here now with the whole family.
Yeah, I do. And I've had wonderful friends. Just
Darryl, I was there from the year 1988 until be like 1994 I arrived here. But those 6 years after I got out of the military, the very first day I got out of the military, like I said, I was in Delafield, Wisconsin. And my wife is from Waco, Texas. And for a Waco, Texas girl, that's a real cold place.
yeah.
She survived it though, because a military wife can handle anything.
Yeah, that's probably true.
You take them everywhere. One time I was almost assigned to Fargo, North
Oh,
Dakota.
that's where it's at.
And I worked really hard with a guy that was a tech sergeant. And I owe my life to the tech sergeant because he sent me to New Mexico instead of there.
Thank heavens. Huh?
I'll give
But
Becky one.
we really loved Wisconsin though.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw those cheese factories. I went to a cheese factory. There was a guy and his wife, and he would
I'll do
run,
that again.
you know, the vat where they run it.
Yeah.
I saw the whole process, and we'd buy our cheese there at those cheese factories.
Okay.
And
Uh-huh.
of course, down around Delafield, and even up in we up to Doris County, up in that long stretch in
It's
there.
beautiful there.
But from around Milwaukee and Delafield up through the Fox Valley
Uh-huh.
to Green Bay, that is an industrial boom town
Yeah.
in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And when I go up there, now we go up and visit our friends up there about every 3 years or so.
Oh, okay.
And I'm telling you, that place is coming alive in terms of manufacturing, because you know what happens up there? Like you said, the first 2 years, if somebody doesn't want to go to college, you know where they go up in Wisconsin? They go to a trade school. And they have some great trade schools.
Yeah.
And so they have a lot of industry moving in there because they have all these people that know the trades. Electrical, plumbing, air conditioning, and they need that in those factories.
Right.
But down here, it's really tough to get them because we don't have a lot of them. We have some, linear tech. But no, Wisconsin is loaded with trade schools. And that's why...
But college down here meant a lot more than in Green Bay. I mean, everybody
yeah.
wanted their kids to go to Georgia or Georgia Tech or something like that. Where in Wisconsin, it was
Yeah.
more the trade.
Yeah, the trades, and they want them to stay on the farms, because
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
drive 2 days out of any city, it's farm after farm after farm, and then they go to these cheese factory after cheese factory.
Yeah. Plus bratwurst too. You folks like bratwurst?
You know, I was up the corporate office I was telling you about in Minnesota, and they were talking about that, and I said, I've never had a bratwurst. And it was, I think, a Tuesday afternoon. And since the guy from Georgia had never had a bratwurst, we went to visit some of their friends across the river in Wisconsin. And on Tuesday night, a big party turned up so I could have beer and brats.
Yeah.
And they made me cheese curds as well.
Oh, yeah.
It was a little late for a Tuesday night, but we had an awful lot of fun.
Yeah, that's right.
On Saturday night there, the big thing where I was to take about 8 guys from the school we were in and go down to the Milwaukee Braves, and they played at County Stadium then. They had a new one now. The County Stadium, and the first thing you get is that a big fat pretzel and a Johnson brat
Yeah.
and a big beer.
Yeah.
And you watch the Milwaukee Braves.
Yeah, that's something else.
Last time I was up there, we were visiting some of the factories you were talking about in Green Bay. I have customers up there.
They are
And,
loaded. They're
oh,
really
they
booming, and they make
really
submarines that are unbelievable up there.
I haven't seen that, but our company, actually, they make big packaging machines, and they're right there close to the stadium. We actually went and toured the Green Bay Packers stadium while we were there.
Yeah, they really.
We're right there.
How long ago was it?
About a year and a half ago.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
It's turned into quite the place.
They have really
Well, you know,
remodeled
Green
it.
Bay is a small town, really, maybe 200,000
Yeah.
or something like that.
They fill it up every weekend. You know?
Yeah, oh yeah.
From
But
all
they
over
have
the state.
you know, a national football league there, and
Oh, yeah.
everybody has a little. You can buy a piece of stock if it's available.
Yeah, they own it.
They own it. They don't get any money or nothing, no return, but they stand in line to buy it.
Boy, they love them, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Green Bay is just a little small town with a few small buildings, and then you got the Green Bay Packers
Yeah,
right there.
yeah, which is unusual.
A little warm.
Well, we have to call you a Georgian now, but I feel like since I've been here in '94, after 30 years, it feels like being a Georgian.
Yeah.
I never really going to tear New Jersey out of me, but I'm a real Yankee by
Well,
heart
they
too.
can spot the way we talk a little bit.
I've been trying to work on this draw thing for 30 years. But
I gave up on it.
I hate to admit this, Darryl, but I will.
All right.
Boy, I hope there's nobody around, because this is bad news for a lot of people right now. I hope I don't get canceled by somebody, not in this room I know, but out there I would. In my house, when I got here in '94, I saw at the flea market over there the best pictures, 3 of them, of General Longstreet, General Robert E. Lee, and there's a 3rd general, and I don't even remember his name. I bought all 3 pictures. And in my house, I'm from New Jersey,
Yeah,
and
and you got the southern.
in my house, and you go down the hallway like that is Longstreet. As you climb up the stairs, there's Robert E. Lee, and his phrase was, "We'll be moving within the hour."
Oh,
That's how he won everything. We will move within the hour.
yeah.
They said, "When are we going?" "We will move within the hour." And that's on my walls. So when I get friends from New Jersey down here, I get canceled.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, that's what attracted us too. We went to Stone Mountain. Beautiful, you know, and generals up there on the, and back then they had the carillon. I don't know if they still have it, but there was a lady that played the carillon
Oh, yeah, the Carolina, I think.
or carillon.
Yep, they still do that. They have
Do they do
have
it?
shows on the weekend. They do.
And you know, a lot's to do with the South and I think it's such a shame that these people are running around taking down all these different.
Oh, I
Yeah,
do
you
too.
can't destroy history. That's
No,
the
no.
worst part right there.
It's just awful. I mean, there's no rhyme or rhythm, and you'll never satisfy them. But it was kind of neat because we didn't have that in Wisconsin. I mean, nobody.
One of my best high school friends is a graduate of, first he goes to Amherst, which is a liberal as you can ever get. And then he's extremely smart. His father was a dentist. This kid is probably #1 in our class. So then he goes to MIT. And then he goes to Carnegie Mellon. And he never gets out of New Jersey his entire life. He works right there in New Jersey. So one day I had him come down and visit me in Georgia. And he didn't just come down by train or air. He sailed his sailboat down here. And then he comes up to visit, and he walks in my house, and the first thing he looks at is General Longstreet. And if you don't think that was not bad news for that guy, you know, they do not believe the Civil War was underway. They don't understand the Civil War at all.
No.
And this guy went to 3 of the best schools in the
Isn't
United
that
States.
amazing? Well,
Well, maybe we'll
you're
let-
going to a good college, North Georgia.
Yes, I cannot wait.
I know
Yeah.
people in Gainesville that will not hire Georgia over yours because it's small. They know the teachers better. They communicate better among each other. Over there, you might be in a class of 120 in a big room. Up here, you're going to be in. So you could be in one of those, but not likely. You got your nice 35 to a class at the most, maybe 12, and you have some of the best professors because they like to live up here in North Georgia. So it's a great school. And they're